Let's take a closer look at the Black Series 6-inch figure of Omega from the first series of the Bad Batch.
Varykino, living the Star Wars life.
Hello there, and thanks for visiting the Varykino YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be unboxing the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch figure of Omega from the Disney Plus animated series The Bad Batch. We're really enjoying the third and sadly final season of The Bad Batch, currently airing on Disney Plus. So to celebrate our love for the show, we are going through and opening up all of our Bad Batch Black Series 6-inch figures, and today is Omega. If you want to see more unboxings from this series, do subscribe. You can get a little bit of a glimpse of some of the other figures we've got that are coming up soon. We're really excited. Can't wait to get them all open and displayed on our shelf. So today I'm going to be taking a closer look at the Omega figure as she is seen in the first season. We can see there the text says Omega Kamino as we first meet her on Kamino, and she does get quite a few outfits later on the series. I do hope they make more versions, particularly of some of her outfits from season 3. No spoilers, but I do like one of them in particular. I think it's quite cool, and I definitely need that in action figure form. I am a personal fan of the Omega character. She is voiced by Michelle Ang, a fellow New Zealander, so I like that connection to my home country, and of course you can tell her Kiwi accent on the show as well. So before I open it up, let's take a closer look at the packaging. We can see the nice bright wide Black Series window with the Omega figure. She has Ruby the lizard creature as an accessory, which is fun. She also has a breather and her energy bow. We've got that dark red color stripe tying in all of the Bad Batch line. We can see it says Omega and Kamino as the variant here. And we've got that really fun art along the side here. We've got Omega with Ruby right down the bottom, which I think is really quite cute. And we can see it says Omega Kamino down there as well. And we can see she is holding her energy bow off to the side there. I always love that side art. On the back, we get that art repeated. We've got that stripe coordinating in that dark red color. And this is number 10 from the Bad Batch series of Black Series figures. So we have a little bit of a bio for Omega here. Born and confined to the cloning facility on Kamino, young Omega serves as assistant to Chief Medical Scientist Nala Se. Offered an opportunity to escape, Omega joins the Bad Batch on their adventures. So a little bit of a short introduction, nothing too spoilery there. We have a lot of copyright text there on the bottom as well. A little bit of a side window there, and on the top, pretty classic Black Series packaging for the modern era. So really excited. I just do have one note before I open it up. There is a piece of the energy bow that is kind of rattling around in there. I'm hoping it's not broken, that it's simply come loose, but I'll definitely have to check that out once I get everything out, because I'm really hoping that's not broken. It's always a little bit of a risk. I didn't notice that when I first picked this figure up, and I just noticed that it's kind of moving in there. A little bit worried about that, but yeah, let's open it up and check everything out. So now I have the Omega figure and all of her accessories out of the packaging, so we can take a closer look. Before I start with Omega, I just want to see how this piece will connect to the energy bow, because I'm a little bit anxious about that. But upon closer inspection, there are 2 pegs, one on either side, and I can see 2 peg holes here on the end. So I'm hoping that this will just snap into place. Okay, I can kind of see why that was rattling around. That's actually fairly loose. I can sort of pull that up. It's not glued together. Not really quite sure perhaps why that piece needs to be separate. So nice to know. So if you spot an Omega figure on the shelf and it looks like this has come off and is rattling around the package, so long as those pegs are okay, that's going to go back nice and easily. So very relieved there. I was a little bit anxious. So next up, I'm going to take a closer look at Omega herself. So I really like her outfit as we see her on Kamino. It's got some really strong contrasting colors, and I like her little head necklace, sort of jewel that she wears across her forehead. And I really like that detail there. And she's got her hair, her blonde hair slicked back. There is just a few tiny little marks on this one, almost doesn't show. And we can kind of see the seam line running through here, where there's just a little bit of a line through her hair. But posed from the front, we don't really see that. You kind of have to turn that all the way to the side to start seeing that. And I know there are going to be seam lines and joins on these figures, but overall, I think she's got pretty good paint on her face, particularly around the little gem. It's nice silver paint. We've even got the little, it's so tiny, the little sort of pattern on top of that silver sort of pendant piece on her forehead. It even has the tiny little pattern that we see on the show. It's really quite tiny and impressive. And yeah, nice clean paint job around her eyes, minimal sort of lip paint. Very good. Again, as I've mentioned with some of the others, it's kind of a little bit different because we're dealing with a very animated style on the show, and the Black Series figures they tend to have a bit more of a realistic look to them. So her sort of facial appearance is perhaps a little bit different than what we sort of know on the show, but it does still look like Omega. It sort of looks like it would belong alongside, say, young Boba Fett and sort of Tim and clones and the Bad Batch. It's all going to fit sort of thematically with the style of the Black Series figures. They don't do true animated style figures there. So I like the face. It looks like Omega to me. And then we can have a look at the rest of her costume details. She's got a tunic here. Pretty much, I think these are black pants. They're a little bit different, so maybe dark brown. There's a little bit of a color difference between her black boots. These are definitely black. I'm thinking this is a dark brown here for her pants. Her blue and white tunic with some red details. And yeah, we've got just a tiny little bit of white overspill here. Very minimal, doesn't look messy. And we've got pretty much the same sort of color scheme on the back here as well. And we've got I want to say it's a really dark blue belt. Maybe that's black. Honestly, with some of those really dark colors, it can be really hard to discern. But I like that detail there. It doesn't look like there's a separate paint detail for that sort of middle strip. It's all painted the one color. And then we've got her hands, and we've got some fun sort of extra details on her boots there, just to give a little bit of extra detail. I like the sculpting of her pants with sort of it coming down over her knee and having sort of the wrinkled fabric around her knees. I think that sort of hides that join, and then we can see the sort of hinge here on the back. Now I'm wondering, yeah, she does have that sort of waist articulation over her belt, and it's a little bit stiff, but it does hold, and it kind of clicks. You can sort of not quite hear it, but yeah, I like that she actually holds her pose. It will twist this front part of her white section here on her tunic, so it does kind of get misaligned, so it does look a little bit odd. But if you want to do some poses there, particularly once we get that energy bow in her hands, we might need to sort of turn her to the side a little bit. We've got a little bit of sort of that shoulder cap painting detail there over the white and the red on the shoulders, and again at the end of the sleeve there. Overall, I like the details. It's kind of funny, I'm not used to seeing this sort of the younger characters. So her neck does look a little shorter to me, but of course that is accurate to the character because she is a lot younger than her brothers. Sorry, well, younger in size. Like, we know that she is actually older than the Bad Batch clones. But yeah, I think of her as younger because she's simply shorter and younger in appearance. So let's take a closer look at her articulation. So I can move her head around. It's a little bit stiff. And actually there's not much front and back. It's kind of minimal, but then perhaps that is just because that is a much shorter neck. It's a bit squeaky, but we do get some posing there. Let's have a look at her arms. Nice and easy. They come out to the side. We can rotate them around all the way. And let's get the elbows going. Oh, very stiff elbows. Okay. And again on that side, because I'm really hoping we've got enough articulation in the arms to do some really cool posing, because this is such a different weapon or accessory to hold compared to the standard blasters and lightsabers. So I get the feeling it's, you know, a good pose here. I really want her to hold her energy bow on display. So we've got the left hand is doing sort of a classic lightsaber grip with that hand, and this one is different. It's kind of more of a slightly more neutral hand pose. It doesn't really look like a grip, because on sort of the promotional pictures for this figure, this hand is sort of holding around the bottom part of the bow. So I'm really hoping that that will sort of slot into her hand doing that. Yeah, and then again, we've got that waist articulation. So her tunic comes down over her top thighs. She has got a split up the sides on both sides, and we can just see that there is a top thigh split there, seam line, so we can rotate her legs to get a little bit of sort of an outward rotation there. Can do that fairly easily, because that tunic is really going to affect how far forward we can get her legs. And again, a little bit better towards the back actually, and get a little bit more of like a running pose there. Let's test out her knees. Oh, very stiff knees. Wow. Okay, so yeah, so we can get a little bit more of a running pose towards the back, but they're not really going to come forward very far to the front. That's about as far forward as I can get that tunic plastic to bend. But yes, that knee's a little bit easier. Yeah, that one's still a bit stiff. So we can get the knee joins, and then we've got classic ankles. Got some pretty good movement there. Can bend them quite a fair way back, because yes, I'm hoping she's going to balance well holding an accessory. You can kind of see underneath, sort of classic hip joins under there. And the other thing that I really want to test out, and of course her hands do rotate as well. We've got a little bit of, that one can actually bend quite a lot up and down. That's interesting. So I wasn't sure if this would impact it. This one is the cuff of her sleeve is down further. I can get a little bit that way, and that way just stops. So I can get a little bit of movement there. But yes, I'm really hoping we've got enough articulation to hold her energy bow. That hand is almost like, that's really quite movable. I'm hoping that one's going to hold it well. We also have her little sort of breather mask here. It's in a grey plastic with a little bit of a white detail and a silver tubing on it. It's very small. I figure it's just going to fit over her face. There doesn't really look like much of an attachment point, so just going to see if that just kind of grips by tension over her face. So that works. It's a little bit bulky, but because it's plastic, it has to be a certain thickness to fit over the action figure face. That looks okay. It's not my favorite way to display this figure. I don't think I would put that on her for display. I much prefer her face uncovered. So let's take a look at Ruby, the lizard creature. There doesn't seem to be any kind of species given for this creature, but it's so cute. It's got such a cute little sort of quirky little lizard face with some painted blue and green eyes. We've got sort of a black nose sort of thing going on here. Cute little mouth. Green body. It doesn't have any paint apps here. And then we've got blue here, but the legs don't move, but you can kind of see there is a seam line that runs around here because there is just a little bit of movement. Like, you can kind of, there we go. It's a bit stiff, but you can rotate it around. So there was a little bit of movement there. And it's kind of sculpted, I noticed when I put it down, so that it's standing on its front left leg and its right hind leg. And the other two, this one and this one, are kind of posed off the ground. So it kind of looks like it's walking, which is kind of fun. And it's so low and sturdy, you don't need to worry about balance or anything like that. It's just so cute and little. So I'm a big fan of having creature accessories. If you have watched the 3rd season, you know that there is a prominent Star Wars creature in the 3rd season of the Bad Batch that I definitely need in action figure form, you know, for the Black Series. And hopefully when Hasbro makes more TVC from the Bad Batch, we will get some creatures to go along with it. It's especially good for Omega. She's certainly the one that befriends animals on the show, and because she has a slightly smaller scale, it makes sense to include these as sort of bonuses with her character, so you get a little bit extra. So a little bit of a fun bonus there, not too much in the way of articulation, but it's pretty small. You're basically just going to want to pose it as it comes. So next up, let's take a look at this energy bow. This is such a unique accessory and such a unique weapon on the show as well. I think it's interesting that they gave her sort of this weapon, so she's not carrying a blaster. You know, the Bad Batch does have a young audience as well as adult fans. I think they liked the idea of not giving her essentially a gun on the show. They give her something different. And this is such a cool weapon. It's actually fairly big too, considering the height of the Omega figure. This is almost as tall as she is, which is really quite fun. So it's made, I don't know if it's all in one piece because this piece was separate, but yeah, so we have some gray painting here. The rest of it is this kind of lovely gold color, and then we've got that translucent pink for the energy sections. And it doesn't move or articulate. We don't have like a closed up version, which would be a fun variant, perhaps, if they ever did that, because she does carry it sort of all closed up in parts of the show. But I think I do prefer it all sort of extended. It's certainly how she's going to hold it if she was, you know, aiming at somebody. But I think this is a really cool weapon, and I'm so glad it was not broken. That's definitely a little bit of a fine point to watch out for, though. Definitely don't want to break these sections because there's really no coming back for it because of that translucent plastic. It's any kind of cracks or breaks are going to show in there. But overall, I think this is a really cool weapon. So now we're up to the part where we're going to try and pose her with this. I'm curious to see how easily I can get her to hold this as depicted in some of the publicity photos. I know that the people that take the official Hasbro photos probably are very, very skilled and take quite some time to pose the figures for the official photos. But I'm just going to try and get her to hold it the way that when one, oh, and I don't know where the best places to push are because I really don't want to break anything. So she holds it onto the end like that. And then in the photos, she was holding it down here. And let's see if I can get her hand around it. Sorry, my hand's in the way. Okay, so I got her to hold on to those two sections as in the promo photos. It's going to take just a little bit of finessing with her arms to kind of get that into the right position and rotating her hands because she kind of wants to hold it. I can't get that hand to go up a little bit further. Can kind of do it like that. It's looking a little bit better. I'm glad she holds it well though. You know, she doesn't have any other sort of accessories, no blasters or compads or anything to sort of attach to her. So I really feel like she's definitely going to look better on a display shelf holding her energy bow there. So I might just take a minute to try and finesse this pose. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of tweaking to really get the arms and everything all balanced and just getting that pose. And then I'll close with some final thoughts once I've got that pose worked out. Well, after spending a little bit of time, I think this is possibly the best that my amateur Black Series posing skills is going to get with Omega and her energy bow. I think she looks really cool. It is a little bit hard to pose because it is such a sort of a large accessory for a figure of this scale, but I think she looks really cool. She does sort of hold her pose, but she's just a little bit wobbly. I definitely think she might need a stand with this one, or I just got to tweak her ankles a little bit so she's a little bit sturdier when standing. But overall, I think this looks really cool. I'm glad I opened her up. She definitely looks cooler posing with her weapon there. And I've even got the cute little ruby lizard creature to go with her. I can't wait to add Omega to my Black Series Bad Batch display shelf. So there you go. I think she's a fabulous figure, and I really need more Omega variant versions for my collection. Fingers crossed for more Black Series Bad Batch from season 3. There are so many great characters. I need Nala Se, I want Emery and Hemlock. I need all of those characters to add to my collection, and I am looking forward to seeing the final episodes of these series. Do subscribe if you want to see more Black Series unboxings. We've got more Bad Batch figures coming up very soon. We've got lots of Star Wars unboxings and adventures coming out all the time. So hope you do subscribe. Catch you in the next video, and as always, may the Force be with you.
If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.